Is there a strategy that'll help you grow your company faster? CEO Sales Strategies is an investigative business podcast for entrepreneurial people who never stop asking questions. Highly acclaimed sales revenue growth expert Doug C. Brown interviews CEOs, business owners, and professionals who serve them to uncover and share actionable tips and methods behind their bulletproof sales strategies. Topics covered on the show include their failures, struggles, secrets, and processes that help them succeed in selling millions to billions of dollars of their products and services, all with the sole aim of helping you grow your business. If you are eager to know the most effective sales secrets from the A players of the game, then the CEO Sales Strategies podcast is certainly the place to be.
Hey everyone, this is Doug C. Brown with the CEO Sales Strategies podcast, and I've got another really great guest for you. His name is Mr. Jason Byer. He's from Crowdspring at crowdspring.com. We're going to talk about branding in a way that you probably have not heard before. This is a relatable conversation to how you and your company, or if you're a solo entrepreneur, or you're out there selling, how your personal brand and how the company brand is created, how it's perceived, how it should be, and definitely how it should not be. In other words, your brand affects selling. Hands down. What people are thinking about you when you're not around is your brand. What people are thinking about you when you're in front of them is your brand. What people are thinking about when they're interacting with your company, if you're the seller and you're not there, is the brand. And it all relates to expanding sales down the line one way or another, whether it's referrals or whatever mechanism to expand that potential sale or to get that sale initially. Your brand is so important, and like it or not, you have one, right? Even if you're not trying to create one, you have a brand. So let's go to Jason and talk about this. Get the pen and paper out, the digital notepad, whatever you're taking notes on. Please start creating your brand to get into the top 1% of sellers and earners worldwide. Here we go. Let's talk to Jason. Jason, welcome to the CEO Sales Strategies podcast. Thanks so much for being here. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Doug. Looking forward to it.
So we're going to talk about how to build a business brand and how to ramp up that identity of the person who owns the brand as well on this call. And you have a company called Crowdspring at crowdspring.com. And why don't you tell everybody what you do so we can set the tone for this?
Absolutely. We help businesses build better brands, build stronger brands that lead to sales. We do that in an affordable way. We're not an agency, but we have 212,000 creatives on the platform, and they help in 33 categories of branding and design. So everything from naming a company or product to building that core visual identity to all of the marketing materials that support that brand.
And did I hear you have 212,000 people using this now?
We do. So we scale very nicely depending on how many projects people need to post. We've been doing this for 15 years, and we're used by a lot of agencies that outsource work and small business owners directly for their brands, and folks within marketing and sales teams that need to increase their brand.
And by the way, you don't look old enough to be there for 15, so I just want you to know that.
Right.
So let's talk about brands, because a lot of people, they don't understand. They think they know what a brand is, or they're thinking a brand is this, but
Sure.
What would you deem a brand to be?
Yeah, a brand, quite simply, is every single interaction that somebody has with your company. It's literally that simple. And I want to say that again so it sinks in. A brand is every single interaction that somebody has with your company. And so when you break that down, you start to realize it's your email signature. It's your voicemail. It's how quickly you respond to calls and emails. It's your return policy. It's how your website loads. Right. It's, anything that goes wrong that touches the customer experience. It's every single interaction. And this is why it drives us crazy when we're on the phone with a larger company and they say, your call is very important to us. We will get to it in 37 minutes, and it's like there's a disconnect. It's like it's clearly not important, or you would have staffed the company to handle my call. And this is why it's important for us to make sure that our brands, we're saying the right thing. Like going back to that example about your call is very important to us. We'll answer it in 37 minutes. There's a reason why somebody is not answering that call quickly, right? Maybe they're prioritizing pricing, so they're a low cost solution, which means they can't staff up their customer service team to answer your call as soon as it rings, right? So this is why somebody like Amazon, we can reach them very quickly, and we expect to be able to chat at any time of the day or night. And because they're a customer service focused team, right? But there's other things we don't expect of Amazon, and they're not telling us to expect those things. And so when we think about our brand, we want to make sure that we're talking about the things that we can actually deliver and the things that will actually set us apart, right? And so if customer service is not an area we're prioritizing, we don't have 37 chat agents to, help answer calls and do that quickly, let's not tell people that that's important to our brand, right? Let's focus on the things that we can control. Maybe that's, the return policies or pricing or things like this. But that's the brand. And what you might be thinking is that, well, what about the logo, right? Because typically we think, the logo is the brand, right? The logo is part of your brand identity. And the brand identity is everything visual about the brand. And so this is your logo, this is your website, this is your colors and fonts that you choose to use. And what we're doing here is the logo is the visual shorthand. It's how we process things thousands of times faster than text is through imagery. And so the logo serves as that visual shorthand to represent the brand, so that when we see this logo, we immediately think of all of these positive and sometimes negative attributes about the brand. So when you see the Nike swoosh, you think about athleticism and fashion and high end, and these are all positive words, right? So that's what the brand is trying to communicate, are these words that create the brand. Does that make sense?
It makes total sense, because then if we see a swastika, then we see the evil in the brand right then and there. I mean, I didn't mean to go to full extreme, but well, actually I did, because people will recognize it, I think, a little more.
Agreed. Yeah.
So if I understand correctly, and I'm going to repeat this back because I think everything you said is just spot on and made sense to me. Like my brand, my company brand is everything that basically the client experiences in dealing with my brand. It's how my people answer the phone. It's how I answer the phone. It's do we call them back in a timely manner? How does our website sort of flow, if you will, and all those things, because everything that touches the senses basically of the human being, and they get a thought. That thought will be how they perceive our company. That'll be the brand. That correct?
Exactly.
Okay. And our brand identity is kind of like all of the visual aspects of what they see, the logo. Is it also audio? Like if I had an audio meme or something like that, is that also brand identity, or is it just visual?
It could be. Yeah. It's everything that they're interacting with, right? And it's the things that are the cues to make you think about the brand, right? But because here's the important thing to realize is that a brand is being created for a company, whether or not you're engaged in that process as an owner or manager or director of the company, right? I think that's important to realize, because a lot of smaller companies think, I don't have a brand. A brand is for Amazon or Apple and somebody like this. Amazon and Apple, they can't tell you what to think about their company. They can only guide you, right? And so this is an important process of brand marketing for larger companies, but we can use those lessons for smaller companies. These companies are trying to influence you to tell you what to think about their company, but they can't tell you have to think this. Apple can't say you have to think our products are high end, right? You have to think that they're beautifully designed. They have to guide you in this process. And over the years and billions of dollars spent, they've done a pretty good job of guiding us in that process. The important lesson to take away from that for smaller businesses is that your customers and prospects have an opinion about your company and your brand. They're shaping that opinion. The problem is most of us are not involved in that process. We're not helping to guide them into how we want them to think. We're just letting it happen naturally, right? We're using the default voicemail for a program like Zendesk, right? Without thinking about, well, what is my customer actually thinking when they hear this? right? We're just doing things kind of on autopilot, and we're not helping to guide that conversation around our brand.
It makes total sense. We're speaking with Mr. Jason Byer. He has a company called Crowdspring at crowdspring.com. They have 212,000 clients, which is a staggering number of clients. So congratulations to all of you. Small business, medium business, large business, does it matter? You working with your company brand, with your company itself?
So they all pay the same amount. So they're all paying pricing that's on publicly available. It's 100% money back guarantee. And so we get large companies that will come to us to get, creative ideas, because here's the important part. Every project you submit on our crowdsourced projects come with dozens of different custom designs created specifically for you. So what large companies appreciate is the ability to get a lot of different creative insights around a brand that might feel a little stale, where they're looking for some unique ways to position the company. Small businesses love it that are not designers, that this is not their job. They get to see their brand come to life and see a lot of different ways to communicate their message, because we make it very simple for somebody who's not a designer, not a creative, to say, here's my company, here's why I'm different, here's some colors that I like, what can I do to create an effective visual brand?
So I want to give a few examples of just things that happened to me over the last, say, 24 hours and give people an understanding of how important, whether you're a small company or a large company or mid-sized company, it doesn't matter how important a brand is to the perception of the buyer. As you know, Jason, we teach people how to sell into the top 1%, right? So
right.
Of earners. But so yesterday I went to, we're looking, because it's New England, and Jason, I know you love our weather over here because it's so cold and rainy. And folks, those of you, Jason was saying to me, you threw your weather over to us on the West Coast here today. Because it's cold.
Well, Midwest. I'm in the Rocky Mountains. I'm in Yellowstone. It's just gorgeous all year.
And now it's cloudy.
Yeah.
So you're welcome. I made the reverse happen. The jet stream went the other way.
Right.
But so I was talking with a company yesterday, and I was looking for a shed because we have to store all our stuff for the winter. And we didn't have a shed in this house. We just rebuilt this house. So I go see these sheds. I pull over the side of the road. I'm looking. I'm like, wow, these are great. Pricing was right. Everything was good. So I called the phone number on there. And on the shed, it had the name of the shed company with a phone number. And I called the tag versus the phone number. Mm-hmm. And it picked up and it goes, hello, this is ABC Consignment Company. Thanks for giving us a call. It was a voicemail, right? And in my head, I went, what does consignment and sheds have to do with one another? I must have the wrong number. So then I was like, okay, well, I left a message and no one called me back that day. So I'm like, okay, I got to figure out who owns these sheds, right? So that's their brand at this moment in my brain, right? So the second thing that happened is my daughters came back. They found a new restaurant and they're like, oh my God, Dad, these people are so nice, so helpful, so unbelievable. Like, we're going back again this afternoon to get another meal. You should check out this place, right? Now that's their brand, that they're helpful, wonderful, awesome people, which, hey, who in a restaurant doesn't want to go back to people who are just treating them like amazing, right? Versus the person we walk in, they go, yeah, pick your menu item, number 7, come pick your food up, whatever, right? That type of thing. And then 2 big ones. Last night, because we're going to Europe, I need to fly from England to Warsaw on business. And I went up to a company's website, LOT Airlines. LOT, if you're listening to this, they're a Polish airline, direct flight. That website, Jason, I felt I was on dial-up. It took forever for that thing to come up. And I'm like, damn it, just go on to British Airways, right? Just like, I'm automatically off because the brand is, to me, it's like, okay, if they're going to be this slow on their website, what is my flight experience going to be like?
Right.
So these are a few examples. And then, by the way, I called British Airlines and you spent 37 minutes. It was almost to the exact number. Your call is important to us. We'll get to you in, whatever it was. I mean, it was just like ungodly time. And it's like, what? Right. So small business, large business. The reason I bring these things up is a lot of people, just as you said, I've got a smaller business, a mid-sized business. Brand doesn't really matter. But a brand is one of those things that draws people toward us or pushes them away.
Right.
There is no neutral in a brand that I know of. Is there a neutral? Like people like,
no. You can't, you're either moving forward or moving back. Right. And so,
right.
There's a lot to unpack, in some of those examples, and they're very relevant to, even though they're industries, nobody on the call might be in. But, what's interesting is, using that first example about the phone number, what this does is it creates doubt. Right. So when you think about, when you're looking at your logo and how it might look outdated, what is this doing? It's creating doubt. It's creating doubt in the minds of the consumers that, well, maybe this person isn't investing in, their company. It costs so much to get a new client. We have to go through so many prospects to get a new client in many industries. The last thing you want to do is create doubt. That's just suicide for your business, right? With these clients, you always want them to be excited to have the conversation, right? And so looking through the lens of how do your consumers view you in these early interactions. So call the number yourself, as a business owner, as a marketing manager, sales leader, call the numbers and see how the customer service team, treats you, or the salespeople. A lot of times we'll have BDRs in the early stage, and these are lower level positions, right? They're meant to kind of nurture the sale before we get it to, more of the higher paying salesperson or executive. But by nature, these people being a little bit less compensated or lower level employees, they're going to need a little bit more work. How are they presenting themselves? How are they dressing in the world of Zoom? How are they engaging? Are they excited? What type of energy are they creating for your company? These are the face of your company. It's crazy that some of the, kind of lowest paid people in the sales organization are really setting the tone for how this prospect is going to think about your brand. I mean, think about that. When we realize that this is the public face, the lowest level employee in the sales team, we really need to give them some education on branding. We don't need to chastise them. We need to explain to them, here's what, having a grainy video or having a confusing backdrop or presenting yourself in a way that doesn't align with our customers, this is why it's impacting our brand, right? And so providing that education. And then the last insight I wanted to share on your examples, the lot airlines, what we're saying is not, because a lot of times small businesses are making trade-offs. They're saying, look, I can't afford fast hosting and making payroll, right? There's some trade-offs, and that's tough. It's life. But as you're seeing with Lot, even the larger companies struggle with this. And so look at somebody like Spirit Airlines in the US, where they poke fun of the fact that, you don't get a free drink because, on the airline, or a free snack or something, because we're trying to keep prices low, right? And so if this goes back to the idea about customer service, if you can't afford to staff your customer service team full, just don't say, you provide strong customer service, because you don't. Lean into your strong points really well and show that, let customers know you can't have everything, right?
I just was on a call with someone earlier, and he said there's the you that you see yourself. Mm-hmm. There's the you that other people see. And then there's the you that you are.
Sure.
And I was like, how powerful is that statement, right? So when we look at a brand, it's the you that other people see that you are in their minds, whether you are or not at that point, right? And if we want to go to the other side, and I can just imagine the hate mail I'm going to get on this one, but think of the Department of Motor Vehicles in any state in the United States that you have to go in. Very few people in those places are cheery people.
Right.
Right. And so it's bad enough. You got to wait in the line forever or whatever's going on. Right. But then they're just like very curt and very to the point. Right. And that's their brand. And people joke and poke fun at the DMV for that reason. I mean, I remember the 70s show, did a whole episode on the DMV. And, comedians will do that because it's one of those things that's kind of the brand. Now, you take Spirit Airlines, it's not, you're not necessarily going to get, 6-inch cushion seats, and you're not going to, and that's okay, because we as a consumer accept that in the brand if we're going to fly with it.
Right.
Right. So what I'm hearing is, and we're speaking with Mr. Jason Byer from Crowdspring.com, a super brilliant guy. So thanks for being here. What I'm hearing is we have to align our brand with the expectations, because the brand is what people are thinking about us, even when we think they're not thinking about us. Right. And so we have to align our brands and be that you that we really want to be and are, and just let our own internal being be part of that brand, but be truthful to it and represent that in the truth. That's the message I'm getting through our conversation so far. Is that correct?
Exactly. And as executives and owners of these companies, we have to take that driver's seat to understand what direction we're going to take that brand, so that we are offering something unique in the marketplace, right? So take our industry as design. Well, we have a company, Upwork. Okay, many people have heard of Upwork. God forbid Fiverr, the lower price version of Upwork, right, where you can get, any level of, you can get any service that you're looking for. The challenge with this is that it's up to the business owner to sort through all of the to take on all the risk, to sort through the crap, and to understand, make this guess, can this person do what I need them to do, and do it on time, and do it on budget, right? And so the market that we've carved out at Crowdspring is to say, okay, one, we're not going to tackle every service a business needs. We're going to focus on design and branding. And then two, we're going to take on the risk for the business owner. Instead of the business owner taking on the risk, trying to understand if this works, we're going to take it on. And we're going to do that by heavily curating all of our creatives on the platform. We are going to offer a money back guarantee, so that if we do fail, you're not at risk there. And so these are the ways where we're saying, okay, here's how we don't offer, everything of Upwork. We offer something different. We found that market, and this is our brand. This is what we're going to focus on. And that's critically important as the executives and owners of these companies, to define what that is and lean into it, and realize you can't have the other things. Going back to your earlier topic about, the you actually are, as opposed to how you think of yourself, or that we've baked that idea into the platform of Crowdspring. We created a tool called focus groups. And what we found was that, what's the best way to get feedback on a design? Because a lot of people will get multiple designs they like in a Crowdspring project, but typically you can only use one per project you're trying to do, right? You can only have one logo for your company, even if you like three different designs. So we said, why not get feedback from your clients, your customers, the people in your team, your coaches, all of these people that actually know your brand or are going to purchase your brand. These are the best people to get feedback from. And so what we did was create this tool called focus groups, where you pull together multiple designs that you like, and then share it with a group of people through email and direct link. And you say, hey, give me feedback. Which one do you like? Which direction should we take? Because we want to get feedback from people who are actually going to use our brand, right?
That makes so much sense. And so many people do it the opposite way. They'll build a product, a service, a logo, whatever. They'll throw it out there, and they have no idea until the market says, I'm not buying that.
Right. Right.
Then it's like, oh no, I invested $35,000 into this thing, or $380,000 in this thing. It's not moving. And so what you're saying it's like, go to market first, figure the market. We'll tell you exactly what you want or don't want.
We're not the customer, Doug. We're not, we are the owners, we're the operators, we're the managers. We are likely not our customer. We may use the product, but we're not the designed customer, right? We're seeking that one out. And so it's like prideful to think that, what we've designed that we like is going to be liked by somebody else. It's the wrong market, right? We're not that customer. We have to design brands, and the visual brands, the logos and the marketing materials, to speak to the actual customer, which normally is not us.
I fully agree. I want to shift one thing, not the conversation, but salespeople.
Sure.
Let's talk about salespeople, because you brought up customer BDRs, business development representatives. Customer service is also a part of the brand.
Absolutely.
Right. And it's disheartening or enlightening when we get to, say, a customer service department that the brand has been consistent all the way through and then dropped at customer service, or all the way through and then heightened by customer service, right? Sure. But the salesperson, so what I'm hearing is we need to set our sales teams up, our salespeople, by dictating the brand to that sales team, and having that sales team, just like handing them the baton in a race, they've got to now take and speak about the brand in the capacity of how we want to represent the company.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. So many conversations that I've had personally with these folks, you realize that, they understand their quotas, right? They understand the product differentiate. They understand the price difference between their competitors, but what they lack is that understanding of branding. They lack, what they're truly great at, and being honest about what they're not good at, right? And I think this is where we want to make sure that we're educating them, because these are, like you mentioned, these are the humans that are representing the brand, right? Where we're going to have a one-on-one conversation with them. And it's going to dictate how we feel about this company. So I think it's imperative that salespeople understand, the core brand and customer service understand the core brand that we're trying to communicate.
Well, if they don't, then there's the bait and switch feel, right? And therefore the brand becomes bait and switch versus what the whole initial conversation was supposed to be about.
Sure. And we have that feeling underlying when we have a conversation with a salespeople, we say, well, of course they said, yes, we can do this because they just want my sale. They want to close. Yeah.
But then the brand becomes liars if they can't deliver,
Right.
Oh yeah, Mr. Byer, we can deliver that in 4 weeks, no problem. And then 4 weeks comes back, you've got the whole construction crew on site, and it's like, oh, well, we had 4
to 12 weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah. We hit 4 weeks one time.
So it's really important for salespeople to be speaking the brand. And I'm a big proponent about this when I talk with companies as well, because it's like, look, you can have the greatest product in the world and your salespeople can completely mess this thing up. And it isn't going to hurt the salesperson, except for that one thing until you fire them over it, but it is going to hurt you on social media. Yeah. It is going to hurt you on the long-term reputation of your company. I try to explain, it's like, imagine Mickey Mouse, at Disney World comes out and, he's holding an alcoholic beverage, smoking a joint and cursing like a sailor. What's going to happen to Disney's brand?
Right. Right. And it's easy enough for people to get that visual and say, of course, that's terrible for the brand equity. And what we have to do is we've got to find those much smaller nuances, right? We've got to find those smaller examples that are not so obvious, but they're still causing long-term harm. And this is why it's imperative. Look, sales and marketing are doing the same thing. They're both helping the company increase profits. They're both helping longevity of the brand. Right. And so it's imperative that there's a bit of a two-way street. It's imperative that marketing educates sales on what the core brand is. And it's imperative for sales to give feedback on marketing about how the consumer is reacting to that, right? What are the words people are using regularly? For example, I don't do a lot of one-on-one conversations with folks at Crowdspring. It's meant to be a self-service platform where you can, sign in 11 o'clock at night in your underwear and launch a project. And, you don't have to talk to me and go through that process. But when I do have conversations, you get words that come up that you wouldn't think to include within your marketing. For example, a lot of people use the word fun when they use Crowdspring. And who thinks that, designing a logo or name or brand for your company, that doesn't really hit like the fun list, of things that you're going to do for the day. But that's how people describe the process. And so if your salespeople are, learning these nuances, they can communicate this back to marketing. Or if you're a smaller company, you're doing both sales and marketing, think about how the prospect is talking about your brand and insert that into the language.
And response time in selling is one of those enhancers. And so And that is part of the brand. So if we can get our whole sales team to respond within X amount of time and we convey that and they do that, now it's congruent, trust will go up.
Sure.
And what I hear you saying loud and clear is don't overpromise on the brand, because when we don't hit that expectation, then, I have a good friend who has a very successful training company in selling. And he used to say, we'll hire people who will outsell 5 people to 1 on your team. And I went to him and I said, don't say that anymore. And he said, well, why? People like that idea. I go, but they're not outselling 5 people on their team. They're outselling 2 or 3 combined.
Right.
So the perception is you can't live up to your promise. And the reality is they would be overjoyed if they just sold over quota every single month, right? So they ended up adjusting their language and it settled down some refund rates.
Sure.
What you're conveying is so important, whether it's a larger company, mid-sized company, a smaller company, or even a solo seller entrepreneur. So how does a solo entrepreneur, like a solo seller, I'm a consultant, I'm a coach, sure, I'm a whatever, an accountant, right? How do they create a brand?
Oh, it's almost easier, Doug, because they don't have the bureaucracy. They don't have, conflicting sales and marketing and leadership teams with their own agendas, right? They are all of them. So in one sense, it's easier because they get to make the final decision. It's unique because, look, as we talked about very early on, you have a brand whether or not you are shaping it or not, right? And we see this especially, the analogy for the solopreneur, the solo salesperson is, look at family members, that we've got holidays coming up, right? Thanksgiving's coming up and you got family members coming over. You've assigned a brand to them. There's somebody who only cares to talk about themselves. There's somebody who just wants to talk about how great their kids are. There's those are 2 negatives, maybe a positive is there's somebody who always wants to, find out what's going on in your life and is very cheerful and positive, right? These are brands. We've assigned an expectation, an emotion to how we're going to interact with that person. Okay. And so it's no different when you're representing a company as a solo person. I think the important thing to realize, again, getting back to one thing that drives me crazy, getting back to this idea of don't be something you're not, is when you see the solo person try to look bigger than they are, right? And we see this in the corporate language or stock photography that, of skyscrapers and big boardrooms and suits and, just it looks awkward. And we're very good as consumers, B2B, B2C, of seeing through the bullshit. And so we look at this and we're like, wait a minute. You're a 1-person shop. You're a 2-person shop. Why skyscrapers and boardrooms? And so it shows this disconnect. Lean into what you are. People like working with large companies and the stability. People also like working directly with the owner, right? Where they can pick up the call or send a text directly to the head decision maker. So lean into that. Don't try to be something you're not. And then from a visual brand perspective, make sure that it's clearly communicating what you do, right? And your service. And this is the problem we run into with generic logos that we find is that, they're not speaking to anything specific. They're just generic. They're using symbols for the industry. Some industries are terrible about this, think real estate or law, where, scales of justice are in every single logo. It's just generic, right? And so generic logos are not speaking to any brand. Remember, what's the point of even having a logo? The point of having a logo is somebody wants that visual representation. We want to give them the visual representation for our brand, right? We want them to see that and remember that because it's going to take 7 to 10 times coming into that contact with that brand through, direct mail and postcards and flyers and emails before they make a decision to move forward. And so we want that consistency. We want to be memorable. And the only way you get that is by having custom design made specifically for your brand. You can't get that just generically thrown together.
I fully agree with that. And I love lean into who you are. And for those people who are, I want to be in the top 1% of earners selling, you must lean into who you are, because just as you said, Jason, some people want to deal with big companies. Some people want to deal with the one person. I've also found a lot of big companies want to deal with the one person if you position your brand as you're the most important thing on the planet to me. where if they're working with a large company and they're kind of one of 2006 people,
Sure.
right? Then that they feel like some of these buyers feel they would rather have that one person because they know that person shows up and needs to be there. Versus, no disrespect to IBM or big companies like that, but they lose 10 clients and gain 11 today. They're okay, right? That type of thing.
Well, look at our industry with design. What's apparent is the agency model versus Crowdspring. And so, an agency will charge you $5,000 for the same logo design that Crowdspring is going to charge for $300. We have hundreds of agencies that use Crowdspring privately and then upsell their clients. And, the difference is in that, people like getting a water bottle and sitting at a table across from somebody and shaking their hand, right? And what it comes down to is it's worth $4,700 to them,
Right.
to go that route. Whereas, they could get the same product on Crowdspring for much less. So just understanding who your clients are. We're going to have agencies because people like, getting overpriced water bottles and sitting down across from you. Whereas with Crowdspring, you're trading that for cost and savings.
And if the people are okay with the overpriced water bottles, because like you said, the experience is there, right?
Right.
I when I fly, the first class is usually always full. And I sometimes question, I'm like, it's a 2-hour flight. Why are you on first class, right? And some people will be like, I only fly first class. That's fine. Fly from Boston to London. The price difference in the ticket could be between $700 and $7,000.
Sure.
Right. So it's kind of like people are going to go there, but people like that brand of first class. They will tell their friends, I only fly first class. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just what people subscribe to be their own personal brand of choice.
Right.
Right. So that's what I'm hearing loud and clear is be your own personal brand. Even if you're a solo seller, create your own personal brand. Even if you're working within a company, you want to create that brand for yourself and for the company and have that be congruent. And if you're the person who's like, I'm always there on time, live up to it. And then people will get there. Like you said, going to the family thing, there's always the aunt that pinches the cheeks too hard. And then there's the grandmother that wants to always teach the kid how to tie their shoes. And,
sure.
And we love those things. So we lean into who we are. And I love that statement. So thank you for that gift.
As we're wrapping up here, I want to make sure we spend, couple minutes here talking about refreshing or rebranding, right? Because
Please.
The culmination of this conversation might leave some people to think, okay, I'm doing some things that I need to adjust, right? I don't like my visual brand. It looks outdated or it looks sloppy. It doesn't scale well. When I scrunch it down into the Facebook avatar, it's cutting off the top and the bottom, right? And so if you're noticing some of these challenges, when's the right time to rebrand or refresh? And the answer is companies do this every few years to make sure you're staying relevant. When we look back about brands 15, 20 years ago, in the moment, we didn't think they looked outdated. They just looked normal. And now looking back, you look at some of the early brands and you're like, whoa, like that I'm not going to purchase from this company, right? We want our age to be not a drawback, in turn, we want to show experience, not a negative persona. And so most companies refresh and rebrand every few years. But if you're finding that your brand is not speaking to your audience, it's time to start right now. And the best way to do that is to really sit down and say, okay, who are we talking to? Lean into what you are, push away what you're not, and then let a designer, somebody who's skilled at this, don't try and do this yourself. Design tools don't make you a designer. What you want to do is have a designer, give them the information, tell them who you are, what you're not, who your competitors are not, and let them craft that visual brand that provides that shorthand for everything that you are.
And for those of you on a budget, don't, for the love of, fill in whoever you want to believe in. Try to do design work by yourself if you're not a designer. It's like I've made that mistake, right? I'm like, oh, I can do this. And then I spend 3 days putting something together And I'm like, well, I don't really like this. And so then I hire a designer, and in an hour they bring me back, or a day they bring me back, 10 designs. And I go, oh, sure. I love that one. You know what I mean? And so you got to think of our time value as much as, because 3 days lost selling. How many clients can you sell in 3 days putting something together by yourself? Even if you could only get one client, and that's 20 grand. A designer for what did you say it was $300 or $500?
Exactly. if you can't make that price back and you're selling in a couple of days, then
call
shouldn't be
me
in business.
And we'll fix that problem. Speaking of gifts, I remember us talking about, you had was it a brand identity graded?
Correct.
Okay,
yep. So we have a brand identity grader. If some of this is resonating and you're thinking, okay, it's worth taking a look at my brand to say, how strong is it? What do other people think about it outside of my organization? We have a free brand identity grader, and this is a 10-page custom report. It's done by a human. It's completely free, and it looks at your specific brand and it scores it out of 100 and gives you very actionable feedback on different areas of your brand that could be improved, right? And so we're looking at things like colors and fonts and other aspects of your visual identity and providing some feedback. And it's completely free. You're able to use this and share it with your marketing team or sales team or executives to say, hey, here's what we might want to spend a little bit of time thinking about. Here's how other people perceive our brand. And if you then decide to use Crowdspring for any of our 33 categories for marketing and branding materials. If you like your brand, that's fine. But we do things like custom presentations where you can take the brand that you like and then insert it professionally into presentations that help you make more money. So,
well, thank you for that gift. And actually, I'm going to do that here with our company as well. I'm a little like,
right?
Let's see what comes out.
We're gentle.
So, Jason, thank you for being on the CEO Sales Strategies podcast today, bringing your A game. I know people got a lot out of this. And folks, you can check Jason out. How do they get a hold of you, or should they go to Crowdspring? Or what
if you need to reach out to me directly for any questions, it's jason@crowdspring.com. And then crowdspring.com is where you're going to find all of our pricing and categories and past examples. So check it out.
Thanks again.
Thanks, Doug.
Okay, so brand identity grader. I'm going to take it. I'm going to suggest you take it. Here's the reason why. We all have blind spots. Blind spots are those things that we just can't see. We're just in the business every single day. Outsiders looking in see something. We on the inside looking out don't see it because we have a different point of view. Something as simple as you copyright on your website. You ever go to a website and it's like copyright 1999 and we're in 2023, right? Or copyright 2004. What happened, right? It just gives us a little bit of doubt. And you might go, well, that's not going to throw off a sale. Yes, it will. Depending on the type of person that's looking at that potential website, it might be somebody who's hyper methodical and looking for high level of trust. And that little bit of breakdown can cause enough ambiguity to start creating some doubt in their head. Now, while I'll agree that might be a small point and maybe you don't want the client to be that picky, there are people out there that are like that for sure. And it doesn't make them bad people. It just makes them, they're very particular about who they do business with. But you can take something as how your phone is answered, and I can prove to you that you're either making money or losing money, and we can quantify how much money you're losing. So think about it. If you're a dentist, for example, or you're a manufacturer, what is your cost of one item to sell? Like in a dentist, it's probably $2,500 lifetime value, something like that, right? Depending on the type of dentist you are. And a manufacturer, that could be, $1 million, $5 million, $20 million. It ranges, right? But the way that phone is answered creates an instant impression in that person's brain that says, this is a good thing, not a good thing, or I'm confused. Now, we don't want it's not a good thing, and we don't want it's confused. And I could go through example after example where I have listened to phone calls and even voicemail that you ever get this? You're trying to buy something, you call in, and the voicemail is so generic, like, please leave a message, we're not here. Click, beep. It's like, who am I calling? There's no company name, no identity, whatever. Or, hey, you've reached ABC company. No one's able to take your call right now. Leave a message at the beep. Beep. It's like, okay, but I'm trying to invest $500,000 into something. Give me some identity. Hey, this is ABC company. We are, specialists in XYZ. Give me a little bit more credibility of what I'm leaving a message for. I may not leave a message. I just might pick up and go to the next one. Response time. That is another one. Response time. I can tell you, it's extremely important. The quicker you can respond to that voicemail that just came in, the higher the probability you're going to get the sale. If you don't call somebody back for 2 days, that is your brand. We don't respond for 48 hours. Whether you like it or not, that is your brand in their mind. You're doing this over and over and over again. Guess what? People talk, right? People go online. People look up things online more than ever before. So if you go up online and you see, hey, they don't respond to calls for 2 to 3 days, well, guess what? That's your brand. That's the way it works. And these are the things that Jason and I were talking about. He did a great job on this whole process of breaking branding down and really doing a wonderful job. So check it out. Go get that grader for yourself. If you like the subject or you want a different subject and you think you might be a great guest for the CEO Sales Strategies podcast, then reach out to us at YouMatter, YOUMATTER, at ceosalesstrategies.com. If you have a suggestion for a show, we will respond back to you one way or another and let you know, hey, can we do it? Hey, can we not do it? If you have some subject matter you want and you're just like, hey, I'm not the expert, but I want somebody else, again, reach out to us. If we can do this and it makes sense for the show, we will absolutely do it. We'll find a guest. It's not that hard now for us to find a guest. I mean, we're getting an average of 5 to 10 people asking to be on our show every single week. So we will find the expertise. If you or yourself, someone you know, your company, you want to get your people selling more profitably, be in the top 1% earners through selling, reach out to me or the company, Doug at ceosalesstrategies.com. Or if you're a company looking for these elite producers and you already want them fully trained and you just want to be able to bring them in so that they can hit the ground running, you'd have to train them in your own discipline, let's say, but they can hit the ground running. Give us a call or reach out to me again at Doug at ceosalesstrategies.com. And as always, go out, go sell something, sell a lot of it, sell it profitably, play win-win, make someone happy, make yourself happy, make the world a better place to be today. Until next time, this is Doug C. Brown with the CEO Sales Strategies podcast saying to your success.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the CEO Sales Strategies podcast. What is something that you learned that you could act on today? Don't forget to schedule it now, or it may never get forward momentum. If you find our content valuable, please leave a favorable review and let us know what you liked. Please also share this with others if the content will help them. For our show notes, other episodes, and more interesting content and resources, please visit ceosalesstrategiespodcast.com. See you soon, and to your continued success.